Ancient Hindu scriptures describe a magnificent city built by Lord Krishna himself, a golden metropolis with towering palaces, elaborate gardens, and mighty fortifications. According to the sacred texts, this city, called Dwarka, stood as one of the most prosperous civilizations of the ancient world. When Krishna departed from Earth, the ocean rose and swallowed the entire city, erasing it from existence. For thousands of years, scholars dismissed this as pure mythology, just another religious legend with no basis in historical reality. Then, in the early 1980s, Indian marine archaeologists made a discovery that stunned the scientific world. Off the coast of modern Gujarat, India, beneath the Arabian Sea, they found massive stone structures, city walls, ancient anchors, and artifacts that matched the descriptions in the ancient texts. Dwarka was real, and what it might tell us about India's ancient past could rewrite our understanding of early human civilization. The story of Dwarka begins in Hindu scripture, specifically in texts like the Mahabharata and the Bhagavata Purana. These ancient works, composed thousands of years ago, describe Dwarka in extraordinary detail. The city was said to have been built on the western coast of India, overlooking the Arabian Sea. According to legend, Krishna established Dwarka after leaving Mathura, creating a utopian kingdom that became the capital of his realm. The descriptions are remarkably specific. The texts speak of a planned city with well-organized streets, beautiful palaces made of gold and silver, gardens filled with exotic flowers, and massive defensive walls to protect against enemies. The city supposedly had sophisticated infrastructure, including ports, lighthouses, and public buildings. Ships from distant lands came to trade, making Dwarka a prosperous international hub. But the most striking claim in these texts is about Dwarka's ultimate fate. The scriptures state that after Krishna's death, the city was submerged by the sea in a single day. The ocean rose and swallowed this magnificent metropolis, leaving no trace above water. The survivors fled inland, and Dwarka became a memory preserved only in religious texts. For centuries, this was treated as pure mythology. Ancient cultures often created foundation myths about their cities, attributing them to gods and heroes. The idea that a real archaeological city might exist underwater, matching descriptions in Hindu scripture, seemed far-fetched. Scholars assumed the texts were either entirely fictional or, at best, highly embellished accounts of some minor settlement. Then Dr. S.R. Rao changed everything. In 1983, Dr. Rao, a marine archaeologist with India's National Institute of Oceanography, began underwater surveys off the coast of modern Dwarka in Gujarat. Modern Dwarka is a small coastal town and important pilgrimage site, revered by Hindus as the location where Krishna's city once stood. Dr. Rao wanted to determine if there was any archaeological basis for the religious traditions. What his team discovered exceeded all expectations. Using side-scan sonar and underwater photography, they identified large stone structures on the seabed, approximately 30 to 40 meters from the present shoreline. These weren't natural formations. They showed clear signs of human construction, walls, foundations, what appeared to be a planned layout. Diving to investigate, the archaeological team found massive stone blocks, some weighing several tons, arranged in geometric patterns. There were long wall structures, angular corners, and evidence of sophisticated construction techniques. The blocks had been precisely cut and fitted together. This wasn't primitive building. This was advanced engineering from the ancient world. The most significant discovery was what appeared to be a massive fortification wall, running parallel to the coast for several hundred meters. The wall was constructed of large sandstone blocks, expertly shaped and positioned. Its scale and sophistication suggested a major settlement, not a small fishing village. This was urban architecture, evidence of a substantial city. Additional surveys revealed more structures extending over a large area. The underwater site showed signs of streets, building foundations, what might have been a harbor, and various architectural features. The layout suggested organized urban planning, with structures arranged in deliberate patterns rather than random placement. Artifacts recovered from the site provided dating evidence. Ancient pottery, seals with inscriptions, copper objects, and stone anchors were found among the ruins. Analysis of these artifacts suggested the site dated to multiple periods, with some elements potentially going back thousands of years. This aligned with the scriptural accounts of Dwarka being rebuilt multiple times through its history. One particularly intriguing discovery was a series of stone anchors, some with 3 holes, a design seen in ancient maritime cultures around the Indian Ocean. The presence of numerous anchors suggested significant maritime activity, supporting the idea of Dwarka as an important port city. The anchor's design and positioning indicated a harbor capable of accommodating many vessels. The question of dating has been controversial and complex. Initial estimates based on pottery and other artifacts suggested the site could date to around 1500 BCE, making it roughly 3,500 years old. However, some researchers have proposed much earlier dates, potentially going back 7,000 to 9,000 years, which would make Dwarka one of the oldest known urban settlements in human history. This extreme dating claim remains highly debated. It's based partly on the submersion depth and geological evidence about sea level changes. During the last ice age, sea levels were significantly lower than today. As the glaciers melted, coastal areas worldwide were flooded. If Dwarka was built when sea levels were lower, it could potentially be much older than the pottery suggests. The geological evidence is fascinating. Studies of the coastline show that this region has experienced significant changes over millennia. Sea levels have risen, the coastline has receded, and land has subsided. The Arabian Sea has been gradually claiming coastal territory for thousands of years. Any city built on this coast in ancient times would eventually face submersion. What makes you think about the implications if the extreme dating is correct? If Dwarka truly dates to 7,000 or 9,000 years ago, it would predate the Sumerian cities, generally considered the world's first urban centers. It would suggest that advanced civilization emerged in India far earlier than currently accepted by mainstream archaeology. This would be a revolutionary discovery, fundamentally changing our understanding of human cultural development. However, most archaeologists remain skeptical of such early dates. The physical evidence currently available, primarily the pottery and artifacts, points to a much more recent origin, likely within the past 3,000 to 4,000 years. The extreme dates rely heavily on geological interpretations and mathematical projections, rather than direct archaeological evidence. What's clear, regardless of dating debates, is that a significant ancient settlement exists underwater off Gujarat's coast. The structures are real, the construction is sophisticated, and the site matches traditional accounts of Dwarka's location. Whether it's 3,000 or 9,000 years old, it represents an important archaeological discovery that deserves thorough investigation. The descriptions in ancient texts become particularly interesting when compared to the archaeological findings. The Mahabharata describes Dwarka as having 6 major sectors and residential and commercial zones. The underwater structures show evidence of organized layout, with different areas potentially serving different functions. The texts mention fortification walls. The archaeological team found massive wall structures. The scriptures describe a port city engaged in maritime trade. The site contains numerous maritime artifacts and harbor-like features. Of course, we must be careful about retrofitting archaeology to fit religious texts. It's easy to see what we want to see, to interpret ambiguous evidence in ways that confirm pre-existing beliefs. The structures underwater could have multiple explanations. Not every large stone construction was necessarily the legendary city of Krishna, but the correlations are striking enough to warrant serious investigation. The site's location, scale, construction quality, and features all align remarkably well with the scriptural descriptions. While this doesn't prove that Krishna was a historical figure or that the religious narratives are literally true, it does suggest that the texts may preserve genuine historical memories of a real ancient city. The underwater investigations at Dwarka continue, though progress has been slow due to various challenges. The Arabian Sea conditions are difficult, with strong currents, limited visibility, and shifting sediments. Underwater archaeology is expensive and technically demanding. Political and bureaucratic obstacles have sometimes hindered research, and the site's religious significance adds sensitivity to any archaeological work. Despite these challenges, multiple expeditions have returned to study the site. Each investigation has added to our understanding, More structures have been mapped. Additional artifacts have been recovered. New dating techniques have been applied. Slowly, a picture is emerging of what this underwater site really represents. One fascinating aspect is the evidence of multiple occupational phases. The site wasn't built all at once and then abandoned. Different layers suggest the area was used, rebuilt, and modified over long periods. This matches the scriptural accounts, which describe Dwarka being reconstructed several times through its history. The city we read about in the texts may actually represent the final iteration of a settlement with a much longer history. The types of structures found also tell us about the people who built them. The massive scale of the fortification walls indicates a society capable of organizing large labor forces. The precision stonework shows advanced engineering knowledge. The harbor facilities demonstrate maritime expertise. The artifacts reveal trade connections and cultural sophistication. This was clearly an important urban center, not a minor outpost. What daily life might have been like in ancient Dwarka? Imagine a bustling port city where ships from distant lands arrived with exotic goods. Merchants negotiating trades in multiple languages. Craftsmen producing pottery, metalwork, and textiles. Fishermen bringing in their catch. Priests conducting rituals in elaborate temples. Soldiers manning the fortification walls. Families living in organized neighborhoods. Children playing in the streets. Vendors selling food and goods in busy markets. The religious texts add another dimension to this picture, describing festivals, royal processions, philosophical debates, and cultural achievements. Whether we accept the religious narrative or not, these descriptions likely preserve some authentic details of urban life in ancient India, details that archaeology alone cannot fully recover. The question of why Dwarka was submerged has multiple possible answers. The simplest explanation is rising sea levels. As mentioned earlier, coastal areas worldwide have been flooded as glaciers melted following the last ice age. A city built on a low-lying coast thousands of years ago would eventually be overtaken by the rising ocean. Geological subsidence may also have played a role. The weight of heavy stone structures on coastal sediments can cause the land to sink over time. Earthquakes in this seismically active region could have triggered sudden subsidence events. Tsunamis might have damaged and partially submerged coastal structures. The submersion of Dwarka was probably not a single catastrophic event, but rather a gradual process over centuries, with occasional dramatic episodes. However, the religious texts describe a sudden submersion, the city swallowed in a day. This might be mythological embellishment, or it could preserve a memory of a particularly dramatic event, perhaps a major tsunami or earthquake that caused rapid flooding of an already vulnerable coastal settlement. Ancient peoples often interpreted natural disasters through religious frameworks, seeing divine action in geological and meteorological phenomena. The comparison to other legendary lost cities is inevitable. Dwarka is sometimes called India's Atlantis, though the comparison isn't entirely accurate. Unlike Atlantis, which appears in only one classical source, Plato's writings, Dwarka appears throughout Hindu scripture with consistent details. Unlike Atlantis, which has never been convincingly located, Dwarka has a specific underwater site with real archaeological remains. The situations are quite different. A better comparison might be to sites like Heracleion in Egypt or Pavlopetri in Greece, real ancient cities that were submerged and later rediscovered through underwater archaeology. Like those sites, Dwarka demonstrates how ancient texts can preserve genuine historical information, even when mixed with mythology and religious interpretation. What makes Dwarka particularly significant is its potential to illuminate a poorly understood period of Indian history. The period between roughly 4000 and 2000 BCE is not well documented archaeologically in many parts of India. Major discoveries from this era could substantially revise our understanding of how Indian civilization developed, how urban centers emerged, and how ancient cultures adapted to environmental changes. The site also raises questions about the relationship between archaeology and traditional knowledge. In the West, archaeology developed partly in opposition to religious authority, challenging biblical chronologies and literal interpretations of scripture. But in India, archaeology has sometimes worked more cooperatively with traditional texts, using them as guides while maintaining scientific rigor. This approach has both benefits and risks. Traditional texts can point archaeologists toward promising sites and provide contextual information, but there's also the danger of confirmation bias, of seeing what you expect to see rather than objectively evaluating evidence. The key is maintaining scientific standards while remaining open to insights from diverse sources. The debate over Dwarka's age exemplifies these tensions. Conservative archaeologists insist on relying primarily on direct material evidence, which suggests a relatively recent date. More adventurous researchers incorporate geological and textual evidence, arriving at much earlier dates. Both groups believe they're following proper scientific methodology. The dispute really centers on what kinds of evidence should be weighted most heavily. Regardless of how these debates resolve, Dwarka has already proven its importance. The site demonstrates that significant ancient settlements existed along India's coast. It shows that sophisticated urban planning and construction occurred in ancient India. It confirms that at least some traditional accounts preserve historical memories of real places and events. And it highlights how much of our past literally lies beneath the waves, waiting to be discovered. The implications extend beyond India. Coastal settlements worldwide have been submerged by rising sea levels. How many other ancient cities lie underwater, unknown and unexplored? How much of human history has been lost to the oceans? Dwarka reminds us that the archaeological record on land is incomplete, that some of humanity's oldest and most important sites may now be underwater. Modern Dwarka, the town above water, remains an important pilgrimage destination. Millions of Hindus visit annually, believing they're walking on ground sanctified by Krishna's presence. For them, the underwater discoveries validate their faith traditions, proving that the scriptures describe real places. The archaeological work is seen not as challenging religion, but as confirming it. This religious dimension adds complexity to research. Any findings about underwater Dwarka will be interpreted through religious lenses by many people. Claims about dating or significance take on meanings beyond pure archaeology. Researchers must navigate these sensitivities carefully, respecting religious sentiments while maintaining scientific integrity. Future research will hopefully resolve some of the outstanding questions. More extensive excavations could uncover additional structures and artifacts. Advanced dating techniques might provide more precise chronologies. Better geological studies could clarify sea level changes and subsidence patterns. Comprehensive comparison with other archaeological sites might reveal cultural connections and historical contexts. Technology will play a crucial role. Modern underwater survey equipment can map sites with unprecedented precision. Remote-operated vehicles can explore areas too dangerous or deep for human divers. Computer modeling can reconstruct what the city might have looked like above water. DNA analysis of organic materials might reveal information about the inhabitants. Every technological advance opens new possibilities for understanding the past. The story of Dwarka is ultimately about the power of both faith and science. Faith preserved the memory of this city for millennia when it had vanished beneath the waves. Science located the physical remains and is slowly reconstructing its history. Together, they're recovering a piece of human heritage that seemed lost forever. Whether Dwarka was truly Krishna's capital or simply an ancient city that became associated with religious legends, it represents a genuine archaeological treasure. Its stones and artifacts speak across the centuries, telling us about people who built, lived, traded, and eventually abandoned a great city by the sea. Their achievements survived the rising waters, waiting patiently for the day when technology would allow us to rediscover what the ocean had claimed. Today, as you stand on the coast of modern Dwarka and look out at the Arabian Sea, you're gazing at more than just water and waves. Beneath that surface lies an ancient world, a civilization that thrived when most of humanity still lived in simple villages. Streets where people walked thousands of years ago, walls that protected a great city, harbors where ships from distant lands arrived, all still there, silent and submerged, holding secrets about our distant past. The ocean may have swallowed Dwarka, but it couldn't destroy what the people built. Their city endures, preserved in the depths, a testament to human ambition, engineering skill, and cultural achievement. And perhaps, just perhaps, proof that some legends are based on truth, that some myths preserve real history, and that the past is never truly lost, only waiting to be found again.